Every so often, an opportunity presents itself that makes me drop everything I'm doing. And seeing Indonesia's last sea cows underwater is definitely one of them. Sea cows, or dugongs, are large herbivorous marine mammals, often mistaken for mermaids by those that are lucky enough to see the faint shadow of one swimming away in the distance. They are incredibly shy and elusive, and are practically impossible to get close to underwater. But with only a handful left in Indonesian waters, this might be my last opportunity to ever see one. However, I've only got 3 days to make this work, and they're pretty far away. So, camera, BCD on the back, and all the other gear, fins, recorder, masks and stuff in the trunk, and 3 hours, 10 minutes to go. Let's go find some dugongs. Now, dugongs almost exclusively eat seagrass, a group of aquatic plants that now exist in very small, isolated pockets around the island. Like all marine mammals, they have to come up to the surface for air. So to kick off this 3-day mission, we're getting some eyes in the sky. Okay, so apparently these dugongs we're looking for are feeding on a seagrass patch that's here somewhere, I think. But it's kind of hard to find them on scuba, so first things first, we are going to send the drone up and get some eyes in the sky. Look at that for some cinematic timing. When tracking down any wildlife, the first thing to do is to locate its food. Like all plants, the seagrasses that these dugongs feed on rely on sunlight for photosynthesis, and as such need to be close to the surface. Given dugongs are pretty messy eaters, we were hoping the drone would show us where they were feeding. How are we doing, Pilot Rufus? Any dugongs?
No, not yet.
So you can see the seagrass, it's the dark stuff on the screen here, and then the white stuff is sand. And so far, guys, it's not looking good. However, given dugongs are only able to hold their breath for a few minutes, we were also hopeful we'd catch a glimpse of them coming to the surface. And it turned out, we didn't have to wait long. Dugongs, dugongs, dugongs. Just here. They just came up just here. Oh my word, oh my word. My heart is racing. 3 dugongs just here. Oh, I hope the drone's gonna pick them up. Ah, we're gonna get in the water.
Oh, what is that big shadow in the distance? I thought I saw one, but it's just a concrete block. So this is where we saw the dugongs from the sky. No sign of them just yet.
After spotting the dugongs feeding so close to the shore just 30 minutes after arriving, bumping into them underwater seemed inevitable. But these animals are incredibly shy, and despite weighing up to 400 kilograms, they're able to drift out of sight into the blue with ease. This was not going to be easy.
So this right here is the reason why dugongs come to this beach. And this is seagrass, the favourite food of the dugong. Now, dugongs are herbivorous, so they only eat plants, and about 90% of their diet is this seagrass. And we've got loads of different types of seagrass around here. Now, I'm not a seagrass expert, but I think this long flat stuff is turtle grass. And then, this stuff here, the round stuff, this is dugong grass. And this is what the dugongs are here feeding on. Now, one of the really interesting things about seagrass is that they're true aquatic plants. So they do have a fully developed root system, and this root system helps the plant stay anchored in this loose sandy substrate.
The dense network of seagrass roots and rhizomes helps anchor the sand on the ocean floor. This creates a stable habitat for a wide variety of marine life that make use of the grasses for a whole host of different reasons. These razorfish use the seagrass for camouflage, swimming vertically to mimic the long strands of turtle grass that stand tall above the ocean floor. Whilst other smaller fish like wrasses and cardinalfish use it for protection, hiding and hunting within the densest patches to avoid detection. However, like all ocean habitats, the seagrass meadows are also full of dangers. This large tiger mantis was hunting from his root-stabilised burrow, waiting for his favourite food to come too close. But he'll have to be quick, as he's not the only predator with an appetite for crabs.
So these seagrass beds are also covered in carpet anemones. Now we've got 2 really big ones here. the anemones are animals, and they do actually have a mouth right in the centre that they use to feed. And the anemones are home to all sorts of really cool reef species. So we've got the saddleback clownfish, we've got some schools of cardinals and damsels. You also get lots of unusual crustaceans on these anemones, like banded coral shrimps and these two fantastic porcelain crabs. This one here is enormous.
Like many critters that live in and around anemones, these porcelain crabs have a mutualistic relationship with their host, removing debris and parasites that can build up within the anemone. The clownfish also help with this too. Now, porcelain crabs are filter feeders, catching organic matter that the dugongs release from the sand when feeding. So, like me, these crabs are also hoping for their swift return.
Whoa, it's just got really murky all of a sudden. Maybe the dugongs have been feeding here. Oh, there's something over there stirring up the sand. What is that?
But it was a false alarm.
So these guys are another reef creature that like to dig around in the shallow sandy areas. These are striped catfish, and look at them synchronized swimming. Now, they'll get quite a bit bigger than this, up to about probably 8 or 9 inches, and they're also venomous, so you don't want to get too close. Although I'm sure at this size they're not too dangerous.
Although we did find some much bigger ones.
And these guys are just busy chomping down in the sand looking for crustaceans and mollusks and everything else they can fit in their mouths.
And they're not the only species trying to find its dinner under the sand. These goatfish are well equipped with barbules that they use for probing around, whereas these flounders adopt a stealthier strategy, using their lateral line to detect the faint vibrations of their prey as it moves around through the maze of seagrass roots. However, these narrow-lined puffers have a slightly different approach, blowing a jet of water into the substrate to uncover hidden crabs. Although this one wasn't keen to show us his tricks. With terrible visibility and several hours of no dugong sightings, things were not looking good.
Oh, I was so sure after seeing the dugongs from the beach that we were going to find one underwater, but it's getting pretty dark now down here, so I guess we'll have to try again tomorrow.
Right, so it's about 5:30 in the morning, and the new plan is we're going to wait for the sun to come up and then stand on the beach and wait to see if we can see the dugongs surfacing for air. So yeah, the gears are ready. I'm absolutely knackered, but hopefully this one works.
We had just 36 hours to find these dugongs and film them underwater. But as the sun rose higher in the sky, we could do nothing but sit and wait, hoping we'd catch another glimpse.
So 7.5 hours later, and there is still no sign of the dugongs. So we decided to get in the water. I'm now floating in the spot that they were yesterday. Wish me luck.
Now, dugongs are struggling around the world for a number of reasons. Whilst historical hunting diminished their numbers considerably, today perhaps the main challenge they face is the loss of the seagrass that they are so heavily reliant on. Pollution and sedimentation limit the growth of the seagrass, and coastal development and tourism activity reduces the availability of safe feeding areas. Conservation is challenging, as these seagrass meadows are incredibly complex. But nature is very resilient, and on this meadow, many creatures unknowingly work together to maintain the grass's health.
So this is a very common find on these seagrass meadows. This is a sea cucumber. Now, sea cucumbers are detritivores, which basically means they rootle around in the sand, feeding on detritus and other organic waste. And this is really important for the health of these seagrass meadows, so without these guys, we might not have dugongs here. Not that I can find any, of course. It's a little bit difficult as well to tell which side is the mouth and which is the butt, but luckily, yeah, I've got the good end.
But these sea cucumbers can't do it alone, and are assisted by other critters that also support the seagrass by feeding on algae that would otherwise smother it.
So here we've got a massive gathering of snails. I've got absolutely no idea what they're doing. They might all be here because they're feeding on the same thing, or they might be mating. I'm not entirely sure. But there is a snail in every single one of these shells. They're everywhere, look. There's got to be hundreds of them. And there's a big ball just here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105.
But other much larger shelled creatures also feed on these seagrass beds.
Whoa, there's something stirring up the sand just here. What's that? Oh, false alarm. It's not the dugong, but it's another very cool species.
Like dugongs, large green turtles also feed on the seagrass. Now, you may think this grazing is detrimental to the seagrass's health, but grazing pressure actually encourages seagrass to spread and grow more vigorously. In addition, turtles also eat and spread the seeds of grasses that are healthier and faster growing, promoting better genetics across coastlines. But although this is a great encounter, this wasn't the large seagrass munching animal we were looking for.
This is our 14 of day 2. It's getting pretty tiring. We got super lucky on day 1. We saw them literally within an hour, and now 2 days later and no sign, which is just typical really, but we'll soldier on. Right, it's day 3 of 3 and still no dugongs, and we've got to head home today unfortunately. Plan today is, we've got the drone in the sky over here somewhere, and we're going to fly it all the way down the coastline, go round this corner and see if we can spot the dugongs from the air. I literally refuse to believe that we saw the dugongs within an hour of being here and then we haven't seen them again since. Super weird. Last time they were just here, so I'm keeping my eyes open. Good things come to those that wait, eh? Sometimes you've got to wait a very long time. Any luck, Pilot Rufus?
I'm afraid not.
Nothing so far. But with just 3 hours left before we had to leave, something came up for air in the bay. Armed with my mask and fins, I slowly swam out into the bay, hiding in amongst the moored boats to try and get closer. I dived down in front of a dugong that surfaced just a few meters in front of me, but like before, as soon as I got down, nothing.
So close. They came up a few times, but I just didn't get near them. They're visibly bad.
However, it didn't take us long to find them again. After getting the drone back up in the sky, we noticed a couple of dark shapes drifting over a different seagrass bed. The only issue was this meadow was over 1 kilometre away, and in the middle of the ocean.
Okay, so we've just spotted the dugongs on the drone, but they're really far out at sea on one of the sandbars out here, so we're going to go and see if we can find them. So the sandbar is just here. It's super shallow over here, and I think the dugongs are basically swimming from the beach underneath here to different feeding grounds. Apparently there's loads of seagrass over here.
And after hopping in, it became clear why the dugongs like this area so much. Away from the beach development, dirty rivers and pollution, the seagrass that surrounds this sandbar is extremely healthy. This is what seagrass meadows should look like, and after seeing this, I wondered why the dugongs were going so close to shore. But in typical fashion, we were still 1 step behind, and after doing a few laps with the drone, it became clear that the dark shadows we'd seen before had moved elsewhere. But then, we got a message. Now, the next few minutes was absolute chaos, but here's what happened.
I'm not seeing it. Are you seeing it? I can't see it. Left, he's saying, my left, he's saying my left. Ruthless narration here. Barney is currently behind the dugong. Yes, he's celebrating, he's celebrating.
When I first started this mission, I was incredibly doubtful we'd even find dugongs, let alone be able to get into the water with them. And whilst drifting on the surface in the pouring rain, watching the dugongs swim away from me, I was convinced that was it. But for some reason, they turned around, and after dipping my head under the surface, I came face to face with 3 wild dugongs, including something incredibly special, a mother and her calf. Now, after watching these dugongs for a few days, one thing that became very clear was how little they want to do with people. Whilst I'd hoped for a closer shot, it was more important to leave them to it. But luckily, other local divers were more than willing to share their footage in order for me to help tell this dugong family's story. Dugongs have very low reproductive rates, with females typically giving birth to a single calf every 3 to 7 years, so this sighting is incredibly rare. Despite relentless threats to their safety and the health of the habitats they so heavily depend on, this is great evidence that we might see healthy dugong populations in this area again at some point in the future. Thankfully, after returning to the shore and getting the drone up, we spotted the dugongs one last time. Far out at sea and away from people. Exactly where they should be.